Call this meeting of the Personnel Committee together. First item of business is approve the minutes of last month's meeting by Supervisor Loeb, second by Supervisor Sokol. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we don't have anything from SUNY right now, so we'll just move on. Human resource, tracking of vacancies. Jackie? Everybody's had a chance to study that?
Good
They've all
report.
been approved by committee. Any questions? All right, we'll move on. What's that? Yeah, the resolution, I was waiting for Ryan to come in. Ryan's got the resolution for the SUNY Adirondack when he gets here. We'll get it from him. Referrals from criminal justice and public safety, public defender. Request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to create the new position of data officer, indigent legal services, annual salary of $55,930 effective January 1, 2020. Motion by Supervisor Simpson, second by Supervisor Loeb.
No?
No? Second by who?
I wasn't there, so...
Okay. Supervisor Sokol. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, request to extend the appointment of Warren County Public Defender beyond December 31st, 2019, expiration until the Board of Supervisors makes a formal appointment at their organizational meeting. Motion by Supervisor Simpson, second by Supervisor Molino. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Referral from the Health, Human, Social Services Committee. Request to amend table of organization and salary schedule to create and fill the new position of Principal Social Welfare Examiner, Grade 3. Any discussions on this one? Somebody want to make the motion? Supervisor Frazier, do we have a second? Supervisor Lowe. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, Support Services, County Clerk. Request to amend the table of organization salary schedule to create and fill the new position of Senior Motor Vehicle Examiner.
And to delete.
Motion by Supervisor McDevitt.
And to delete.
And to
Second
delete.
half.
Yes. It's all in there. Second, motion by Supervisor McDevitt, second by Supervisor Lowe. Any discussion? There's a lot of discussion at committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 6, County Administrator.
Yes?
He's Casper today.
Waiting for him to get back.
Casper the Fred, but he'll be in a minute, and we'll do that. Any other items that come in front of the Personnel Committee right now? Any questions?
And we're on our feet.
We're gonna go back to item 1.
Okay.
And then we're down to 6. Sorry about that. That's okay. I had a couple of supervisors.
Okay, so item 1 is a request from the SUNY president to support their efforts down in Albany to fix the way that Albany does the base aid. In this year's budget, they were able to get some of that done with, essentially it says that the base aid is either 100% increase per FTE or 98% of the previous year's aid, whichever is greater. They would like to get that increased and permanently set to either 100% of the previous year's aid or a $100 increase per FTE, whichever is greater, which I think is certainly a reasonable proposal, and it's something that we ought to back them on. It's to our advantage and to our residents' advantage to make sure that the community college is as strong as it can be financially.
Does somebody want to make a motion to put this in front of the full board? Motion by Supervisor Lowe, second by Supervisor McDevitt. Any other discussion? Supervisor Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, this reminds me of the Craner Library's effort to get a taxing district, where they're an institution which is an important part of our community, and every year they had to come before the different communities and ask for money in hopes of getting the money at the jeopardy of losing or decreasing the service of the institution. They got the taxing district, the institution has flourished. There's no question that we want the college to continue, so this makes sense to me. Thank you.
Anybody else? Let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, now we'll go back down to 6.
Okay, so Next, this is in the packet. It's item 6A. I put a proposed structure for the Emergency Services Department. Brian LaFleur and I have talked at length about what's in store for that department next year. He's intending to retire early in the year in 2020. He's also been talking with the civil service and with HR regarding his recommendations for how to structure this department. This is what he's come up with. The basic idea is that you're going to have a director and then the three different areas that this department oversees, which would be the EMS coordination, the disaster planning, and the fire coordination, broken up into three silos that all report to the director. And each of those silos would have their own individual that organizes everything and runs everything. Now, the fire coordinator position currently is lumped in with Brian's position, and you have very specific qualifications that are required in order to do that position. I think you have to have 5 years as a fire chief or a comparable position leading fire companies. So the proposal would be to start the fire coordinator out as a part-time position until we get a better idea of what those duties are, and that is the same as many other counties do it. They have that fire coordinator part-time working for the emergency services director. The emergency services coordinator, that's essentially what Amy Drexel is doing right now. So it would everything underneath that would remain the same, and the EMS coordinator, that silo, if you will, is currently structured that way. The office specialist would report directly to the emergency services manager. In terms of the hierarchy in the department, currently when if Brian was out of the country or unreachable, all the supervision of the department reverts to the emergency services coordinator, because she's the only full-time person that's in any of these three areas. So the proposal would be, when the director is absent under this new formulation, then depending on what it is, if it's an EMS matter, it'll go to the EMS coordinator. If it's a planning matter, it'll go to the emergency services coordinator, and likewise for the fire coordinator. So we wanted to bring this, I've discussed this with Supervisor Leggett and Supervisor Garrity. We wanted to bring this formulation to the Personnel Committee to see if you had any commentary on it, because Brian, I think he's looking at the first quarter of next year, and we would like to have an extended recruitment process to make sure that we get the best candidates that we can for these positions, as long as the committee is okay with this formulation.
Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Chairman Garrity. So the process right now, this is just coming before the committee, it's for discussion, and then will further action be required of this committee at a later date?
Yes, there'll be a point in time when we establish salaries for these positions, and we ask for permission to fill the positions. And also, of course, the search process will involve this committee in some fashion.
Thank you.
Supervisor Vogt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, I'm involved with the Red Cross. We have a particular protocol for reacting to emergencies, which includes Brian. Where I suspect that it would be under the emergency services coordinator, but I think we should. The Red Cross is asking, out of all that, is asking me to coordinate all the volunteer organizations that are involved with responding to a disaster, and they would kick in as the level of the disaster would go up. But most of it starts with the director, emergency manager. But I'm not sure exactly where the box would be, but it seems there should be a box in here connecting us to
The Red Cross.
under the Red Cross. So if something happens, we don't respond until fire. We don't respond to a fire unless the fire chief asks us. We don't respond to a flood unless Ryan or the director asks us. But we're part of that structure.
All right, I think, but rather than somebody's been there a long time, been through this situation, I think we're going to break it off into three different groups, and they would still work together as one. Depends on,
Yeah.
what the situation is.
Yeah, really what triggers this new formulation is we think it'll be difficult to recruit an emergency manager, a department head, and still have those fire coordinator duties tacked onto that position. It just happens that our current department head is able to do that, has the qualifications. We don't want to limit the pool to fill that department head position by continuing to have it lumped in. So that prompted the reorganization of the department. In terms of functionality, everything will function as it is now. It's just a question of how the department is organized.
Sorry about that. Anybody else? Okay. We don't need to
No,
vote on this tonight.
what we'll do is we'll finalize job descriptions, and then we'll post them as soon as that process is done, so that we can get the recruitment process going and hopefully find some good people for these positions in time for Brian to retire, so that he can help us see through a transition. And I want to add that Brian's been very good on that. Says that he'll change his plans if he has to in order to make sure it's a successful transition. But I don't want to take advantage of that.
So also in your packet is the non-salary or non-union salary grid. First time, I'm sure some of you have read it, or you have any discussion points you want to make, or do you want to bring it up?
Sure. Just quickly walk you through how we did this. This is modeled after the attorney salary grid that we did earlier this year, that this committee signed off on. And the request was made at that meeting to take a look at doing the same for the other non-union employees. So if you flip to the management confidential grid that has all of the numbers on it, the position grades go from 1 to 25. That doesn't. There is currently no position assigned as a 25. There's no position, I think, assigned for 1 through 4. We just wanted to have some flexibility there. The base level salary for each position increases by 6% as the grade increases, and then the increments you'd be eligible for these increments according to how long you've been here. For instance, once you pass your first full year, you'd be eligible to move out on your grade to the first increment salary. And likewise, second, third, fourth, fifth, etc. And the percentage changes for each of those increments are down at the bottom. Where this is different from, and this is very similar to what we do with CSEA, but what's different about it is that these increments are not automatic. We want to, just like with the attorney positions, we'd like to tie them to merit-based performance evaluations. We have a system in place for department heads that I've utilized and that I believe the board has utilized for a couple of years before I came here. I've come up with, if it was up to me to reformulate that in a manner that would work with this grid system that I've come up with. I actually think that we ought to get back closer to what the original evaluation form was, where we have a 1 through 5 system in several different categories, where the department head or the county administrator, with cooperation from the board, can write comments. Also retain the goal setting that we have at the beginning of the year for department heads. And the one piece that I did skip over, of course, which is a very important piece, is the charts that have the blue headings on top. Comes in your packet right before the actual grid. These are the grade assignments that were made for each of our non-union positions. And the process of coming up with these was, first of all, I did a canvass of other counties to see where similar positions were graded in other counties, because at the end of the day, we're all the counties are doing the same essential functions. Then I sent, without having the information that I had, I sent it independently to the Civil Service Department, Trish Nenninger, and the Human Resources Department, Jackie. They pulled out all of the job descriptions that we had for these positions, and they took a good look at job duties as well as minimum qualifications required for these positions, and they ranked all of the positions. And we combined those efforts, smoothed it all out. I took a look at, we do have variations here in terms of what some of the departments do. I'm aware of working with department heads every day of who's doing what, and we sort of settled on different grade amounts before we came up with the salaries. I've worked with the chairman of this committee and the budget officer just to make sure that everything looked okay from their perspective, and this is what we came up with. And then after that, we came up with the salaries and have attached them to the various individuals. But we wanted to take the personalities out of this, do an objective analysis of what all of these departments do, what it takes to be hired into one of these positions, what kind of background you have to have. That's why, for instance, the attorney department heads are the highest graded positions, because it requires a law degree. And the DPW department head is a PE, and DSS is after that. That's pretty much standard practice for every county that I looked at. I did write in some rules for if it were up to me, how I would handle the evaluations and applying the evaluations into the budget process to come up with a salary. I'm very open to input on that and improvements that any of the board members want to make. But if you were to ask me, as you did, to put something together, this is what I would put together.
And I think because it is personnel, if you have questions, I'd like you to just take them directly to the administrator so you can discuss them directly with him. I mean, a lot of work went into this, and it was something that we had put on the back burner because we had the other things we're dealing with. So, I think this, at first blush, it looks fine to me. So, and he's put a lot of effort in. Yes, Claudia?
I appreciate the objectivity, because in the past we have not had really, I would say, consistent method for applying our salary raises, and I'm glad to hear we're going to be getting back to the performance evals, especially for not just our department heads, but those other non-union employees, non-bargaining, employee. I feel like I haven't had enough time to just digest all of this information, so I'm hopeful that we're not, if we could have a little more time before we pass this,
We certainly can.
approving it.
What we did with the attorney grid is that we had this committee sign off on it. We didn't take it to the full board because part of this is keeping the budget officer's ability to adapt to economic downturns intact. I mean, we don't want to have something that the budget officer, whoever that may be in the future, is locked into if the economics don't work. This is meant to have an advisory role with the budget officer as to objective criteria that can be used to set salaries. And furthermore, for the Board of Supervisors, when those salaries come before the board, we still want to make it within the board's discretion to award whatever salary they think is deserved, but we, again, want to give some objective guidelines in that process. The one thing that we would need a board resolution for is if you agree, and I don't want to force this today, we don't need to do it today, but if you agree with how I propose to do the evaluations, it will be a bit of a change from the current resolution that we're operating under. As I said, we'll get back more to that original form that was devised, and we would have, with department heads, I would meet with them in the beginning of the year with their goal setting, and then I would meet with them again around budget time to do the evaluation form. So again, yeah, that will need a resolution, but it doesn't have to be now.
Anybody on the committee? Supervisor Bramer?
I just had one more. For the grades, I like your idea of having gone out to do the study of other counties and looking at our current job duties and qualifications. I just want to know, though, if these were also set based on existing salary, or if that was
No.
not part of the evaluation of setting the grade.
Existing salaries and existing the incumbents in these positions were not factored.
Right, okay, good, because
And
I think that was...
No, and in some cases, we have employees that are currently making a little bit more than they would if we utilize this grid, and we haven't cut any salaries.
Yes.
We'll have people that are essentially grandfathered out of it.
Right, sure. I don't want anyone to go backwards.
Yeah, no, this was really an attempt to have a blank slate and act as if we were creating a county from the ground up, and how would we do that? And then afterwards, we took a look at the implications on salaries.
Supervisor McGowan?
Thank you, Ryan, I want to thank you, because I took a look at this via the iPad there, and looked it over, and once again, you, in my opinion, you do things so thoroughly, and really easy enough to kind of understand without your explanation, and then when you put your sales pitch in there, you really do the polishing touch. But I just wanted to thank you for this, and all you do.
But thank you, Supervisor McGowan.
Any other discussions? Supervisor Leggett?
Thanks, Chairman. So before us today is this non-bargaining employee evaluation form. We do not need to adopt it at this point, so...
No, you can take some time to think about how you would improve it, and we can come back and talk about it again.
Okay. Because it is laid out well, I made some comments, but...
Supervisor Bramer?
I would be okay moving forward with the new evaluation form, though. I'd like to see us get that going.
I'll second it.
Thanks.
You have a motion and a second. I know you have discussion, Supervisor Leggett.
When would you be doing evaluations? Before, when they came up, it was...
Oh, if you'd like to approve the form today, I'll start them today. Or I don't know if I'll have time today, but I'll start them. I'll start them right now for November.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think the form is well done.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
are you seconding?
I did.
Former Supervisor Sieber is here, and I think she had a lot to do with creating that initial form, and it was a very good start. So I did model it a bit off of that, so thank you.
We have a motion and a second to move ahead with the evaluation form. Any other discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. And then the rest of it, open for discussion, and please take your comments directly to the administrator. Thank you. No pending items. The vacancies, you already know about those. Any other discussions for the personnel? Okay, do we move on to, do we have to adjourn and move on to finance? Motion to adjourn. Motion by Supervisor Oaks, second by Supervisor Frazier to adjourn. Thank you. All right, Matthew.
All right.
Connie?